Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for coming out to our all citywide community meeting. I know we've got every district represented this evening, and we've got a lot of great information. Here's what we're going to do. We are going to first allow the mayor to go through a presentation and talk about some of the exciting things happening, and then we'll open the floor to questions. Now, we're going to make sure that we want to talk about things that we can actually end up getting some deliverables and talk about things that are actually right now under the mayor's control. And we know right now, water and sewage and police are not under the mayor. But we know we've got a lot of great things to talk about. So without further ado, I will pass it to Mayor Mike Duggan.
Well, thank you. I'm still surprised people want to show up and listen to me. Let me start. I'm a little nervous having you behind me, but I want to start by introducing three of my partners for the last 6 months. Council Member Raquel Castaneda-Lopez, Council Member Mary Sheffield, and Council Member Gabe Leland. And I know President Jones will show up, and when she does, she always takes the microphone. So we'll let her speak right on cue. Come on up, Madam President. I just introduced you. I said, Ed, as well as Councilman Spivey. Give him a hand, too.
Good evening to everyone. Well, it's been 6 months. And I am excited about what's going on in the city. I am excited about the relationship that the council and the administration has. I heard someone say today, if there are two different branches of government, there truly are two different branches of government, the legislative branch and the executive branch. But for the first time in a long time, you see two branches of government that are working together for one Detroit and one Michigan. And I think that's what you all want to see. You want to see two branches of government that's working together for the good of this city. And you get much more accomplished when you work together as opposed to fighting each other. And that's what we're doing. We're getting things done. And so that's why you hear people saying, this is the new Detroit. This is the new council, and this is the new administration. And we are working together. So thank you all for your support in the city. It's going to be a city that you're going to say, I'm from Detroit with a smile. And you're going to be happy when you say, I'm from Detroit. And you're going to say, come to Detroit World and visit us. New York, Chicago, and no other major city has nothing on Detroit. Detroit is the best, with the best legislative branch and the best executive branch. Thank you.
All right. She doesn't need any preparation to be eloquent, does she? All right, I'm going to do what I always do, which is show you a whole series of facts, and then we're going to stay and answer every question that anybody has. But what I'm going to show you today, virtually every piece of this, is something that's been done in cooperation between the mayor and the council, in many cases between the mayor and the governor and the mayor and the state legislature. We've been working to build partnerships, and in several cases you'll see it's only been possible because of the support of the Obama administration. But right now, this country is behind the city of Detroit, and we need to make it count. So, things that I'm responsible for. In 3 months, assuming my council members agree with me, the emergency manager will be gone, and the elected officials will be back in charge of the city of Detroit. But for the next 3 months, we're going to continue to operate under the structure that we have. So let's talk about what we've been doing. The streetlights. One of the very first things we did together was appoint a new street lighting authority. In fact, Dr. Lorna Thomas, the chair of the board, is here today. She's done a great job. Lorna, stand up. Okay, this is the only pay she gets for all the hours of those meetings, along with Otis Jones, the executive director. Many of you know the way this originated. The legislature in 2012 passed a bill where they took $12.5 million a year away from funding our police department and put it into the lighting authority. Now, if we spend that money wisely and we light the city, we're going to be safer. If we spend that money badly, we're going to be in the dark and have $12 million fewer public safety officers. It was supposed to, that $12.5 million was supposed to be able to allow us to borrow $160 million to replace the lights of the city. And I'm very pleased that last week, Wall Street signed off on this. The confidence in Detroit is so great. We got a better interest rate than was expected. We're actually able to borrow $185 million, extra $25 million of lights. So Otis Jones and the team is just doing a great job. So here's the status today. We had, when we started, 88,000 lights in this city. Half of them don't work. We all know that. We sat down together, the mayor and the council, and said, let's have a different strategy. Let's light the neighborhoods first. The main streets are going to take us longer. Those main roads have got underground wiring. It's going to be a hard process. It's going to take till 2016. So we looked at that and said, what matters most to people? And we felt like it was lights in your neighborhoods. And so we said, we're going to light the neighborhoods first. You all know what the old 75-watt sodium lights look like. The first decision we made was to go to 150-watt LED lights. And you just saw last week, a member of the Obama administration from the Energy Department said we're going to save $1 million a year. Detroit's going to be the largest city in America to have converted all of its public lighting over to LED lighting by the end of next year. Okay? And since February, we're going to have a ceremony in the next couple of days where we're going to put in the 10,000th light that's gone up this year. So Otis and Lauren and the team have been busy. So what does it mean to you? Well, this is the way the lights in the city have looked. It looks familiar, right? And this is the way they're looking as we put the lights in place. So in January, all of last year, less than 500 lights were installed. And so in January, this is the way the city looked. In dark blue is the area in which no lighting had been done. 6 months later, this is the way the city looks. The yellow are the two areas we started. 100% of the lights are done. And the green areas are areas there are crews working in every day. If you live in the far west or the far east, you have likely seen the teams out there putting in the lights. 10,000 lights in 6 months. And now that we're up to 700 lights a week, here's how we expect it to look by December. Okay? We're going to be fully lit on the west and the east side and a good chunk of the southwest. And you can see the areas we'll be working in. And then by the end of next year, every neighborhood in this city will be lit a year ahead of schedule. Okay? This is real. The parks. Last year, 25 parks in the city were maintained by the city on a regular basis, cutting every 10 to 14 days. Just what the city called the premier parks. You remember the conversation last summer? We're closing parks? Okay? We're not using that terminology anymore. This year, the city departments under Gary Brown and Brad Dick, the General Services Department, they're out cutting 186 parks. We have churches and community groups and businesses that have adopted another 70 parks. In fact, I see some of them here in this room. Who's adopted a park in this room? All right, Reverend Griffin I see here. Give him a hand. All right. People pitched in. Reverend Ways adopted a park. And so of our 275 parks, 256 of them have somebody working on them, and all of them are being cut on a 10 to 14 day schedule and being cleaned regularly. So this is last year's map. If you did not have the good fortune to be next to one of those 25 green dots, you were not at a park that was regularly maintained. How does that map look right now? This is what the city's maintaining. Okay? This is Brad and his team. But 186 wasn't good enough. So we went out and got 70 churches and businesses, and with that, this is what we're doing. Okay? There's nothing I enjoy more than driving around the weekends and seeing kids and families in parks. It is a great feeling. There's one next door to me that's quite loud all the time, and it doesn't bother me at all. I'm glad to hear the kids yelling and screaming. No, my wife is as happy as I am, but it makes me smile. So we went out and we had the churches adopt them, and you've seen the signs on the parks. They took public ownership. And every week we go out and inspect it. And so this last week, of the green dots, the city parks, 93% were properly maintained. The churches and businesses, 85% were maintained. So we had, out of 256, 223 were properly maintained. Ike McKinnon is in charge of making sure that number gets up to 256 next week, but we're heading the right direction. So we want to make sure that instead of this, we've got this. And instead of a park like that, it looks like this. And this is what we're doing all across the city. Buses. We got a ways to go on buses. Everybody here knows that. 100,000 Detroiters depend on DDOT every day. We would need to put 225 buses on the road. When I stood here at the beginning of this year, I told you we were putting out 143 buses per day. Everybody watched our citizens standing out in that terrible winter waiting for hours at a time. We've hired drivers, we've hired mechanics, we fixed buses, and now we're getting out 190 a day. Had a couple weeks in June we got above 200. We're getting there. But it is not nearly acceptable. Until we get to 225, we will not be honoring that schedule. And so we're continuing to add drivers classes. We have new drivers coming out every 2 weeks, and we've got an application in now to the Obama administration that I know is going in with the support of City Council, that if we get this fall, we think that there is an excellent chance that we will be on schedule by the end of the year. And that's what we're shooting for. We want that schedule to mean something to our constituents. But we're not waiting to make the buses safer. We're putting 300 cameras on the bus. 50 are there already. We're installing the rest. We've hired and are in the process of training a full-time transit police force of 35 officers. And we've already seen an effect of that. We're putting security cameras and having a continual presence at the Rosa Parks Transit Center where we've had some issues. And I'm glad to say 10 of our officers are already on the buses. Sometimes they're in uniform, sometimes they're undercover. We will have all 35 out on the buses in the next few months. It's going to be safe for our passengers, and it's going to be safe for our drivers. Trash collection. This is something I don't deserve any credit for. Kevin Orr did this before I got here, but we went to 2 contractors. On May 5th, Rizzo began service on the east side and south of 94. On June 2nd, another company called Advanced began service on the rest of town. I think by now you probably know the differences. Bulk trash is now picked up every 2 weeks. Yard waste is now picked up every 2 weeks. This one's really important. They will pick up the bulk in front of the vacant lots on the day they come through and do bulk pickup. So if you organize a neighborhood cleanup, the Advance and Rizzo will come through and take the trash away. It's been a big problem in this town for a long time from the community groups that wanted to do that. And we're about to embark on citywide expansion of curbside recycling. There's a lot of things I disagree with on Kevin Orr, but if you think your trash collection got better, this is something the emergency manager did. EMS, again, we're getting better. It's not good, but it's better. And so we deal with 125,000 EMS calls a year. The national standard is 8 minutes. I am committed that by the end of this year, we are going to be making that 8-minute national standard, but we are not there yet. You would need 25 vehicles on the road for a city our size to make that. When I started, we had 13 vehicles on the road. In June, we got up to 18. It's progress, but until we get to 25, we're not going to be there. And so what are we doing? We had a group finish the academy. They're being trained on the rigs right now. They will be on the street in the next month. We had a second class. It says it's in the academy now, but they just graduated. And so another 20 EMTs have just come out of the academy. They're going to go on the rigs for their training period. We've ordered 15 new ambulances. 5 will be arriving in the next month, and another 10 in October. Between the extra 15 vehicles and the classes of EMTs, we expect by the end of the year to be at a full complement of 25 ambulances, and we do expect to be making the national standard of an 8-minute response time for an emergency call. The team, Edsel Jenkins and the team at the fire department have done a great job. The men and women who are working in our emergency management division have been working long hours with broken down equipment for a long time. It's getting better every week, and I'm glad we're finally going to get them some help. Blight. I know you know I never get tired of talking about this. It's spent a good part of my day on it. So Charlie Beckham and the crew, the district managers who are here, how many people here have met your district manager in your neighborhood? All right, you guys are doing pretty well. So we've got district managers who are working side by side with the city council member in each district. They become a team. If you take your issue to the city council, they get it through quickly. If it gets to the district manager first, they work with their city council member. There's no turf fighting here. All we care about is working together to solve your issues. Let's talk about some things we haven't talked about. 100,000 vacant lots in the city of Detroit. They have not been cut since 2010. Last time vacant lots in this city were cut until now. We're out cutting the vacant lots. We are going to cut them twice this summer. Yeah, you should clap about this. So we've hired 2 contractors, and they've hired 70 residents of the city of Detroit who are out working there. The first cut's underway. You may have seen them. Okay, they've been out there. I know they've been out on the east side because I've seen them the last week or so. They started June 9th. They're getting through the city by August 15th. When you are going over property to cut it for the first time in 4 years, lots of debris has collected. They are taking the debris off the lots, stacking it up at the curb, and then cutting it. So it's taken a long time to get through the first cut. Then they're going to go back through and do a second cut from August 25th to October 3rd. I won't tell you that we won't miss anything, but their instructions are, whether it's main streets, neighborhood streets, etc., cut every vacant lot that you found. And last week I was talking to one who told me there was a house that looked abandoned, had grass about 10 inches high, and the crew went out to cut it. The guy came running out of the house saying, "What are you doing?" And we said to him, "Well, you better cut your own grass if you're going to be here." But they're being very diligent in the way that they're going about this. And so here's the second thing we have to do. The contractor moves the debris to the curb. Well, because Rizzo and Advanced have taken over the private collection of the garbage, we took 35 members of our former garbage collection team and put them on an illegal dump site team. And under Ron Brundage, they are out collecting this trash. And so what happens is the grass cutting crews put the garbage out at the curb, and Ron's dump teams come through and haul it away. And so you will have lots that look like this, that a week later look like that. Okay? This is what they're doing. We're going to have lots that look like this, that now look like that. 650 tons of debris a week our illegal dump team is taking away. It was something that we have not done before in this city. I won't tell you we don't have a whole lot to do. We got a lot of illegal dump sites. And so we're going through as they're reported. Now, here's another one. I guess they gave me another picture. Ron was really good with his camera, so it looked like that. Now it looks like this. So, Ron, stand up. All right, so he's doing a heck of a job. All right. Did you take those pictures yourself? Okay, all right. He's got a backup career. So, if you have an illegal dump site in your neighborhood and we aren't getting to it, we now have a number. Call 224-6000 or talk to your district manager, because for the first time in years, there is a team that will come out and haul away the trash from these sites. It's not hopeless anymore. Now, we have this bizarre practice in this city that in order to get City Hall to come out, you call up the TV station, and the TV station calls City Hall for you. And what I will say to you is this: that'll work out okay, and it helps their ratings, but if you just call us directly, we'll come on out, all right? So you don't need to call the TV if you don't want to. If you want to be on TV, go ahead. The other thing is that I'm working with Chief Craig, and we're going to start setting up surveillance teams. So when we go in and haul garbage off a site, and we know there are sites that collect over and over, we're going to put hidden cameras up. We're going to collect it. We're going to capture them. We're going to arrest them, and we're going to seize their trucks. All right? We're going after them. Demolition. I really don't talk a lot about demolition because I'm much more focused on saving the houses. But it's something that we have to do. And so you saw before, and there are some things changing, we had somebody in town who was demolishing. We had lots of press conferences. I'm going to knock down 29 houses in Brightmoor. 2 weeks ago, we knocked down 29 houses in Brightmoor. We just didn't talk about it. People in Brightmoor know what we did. But we're not going to spend a lot of time talking about it, but I do want you to know what we're doing so that you'll see it. The process when I arrived, demolition, was 36 steps, 4 to 5 phases, took 3 to 4 years to complete. The city was demolishing 40 to 50 houses in a week. Now, I got to give them credit. To get through those 36 steps and still do 40 to 50 houses a week, that's a pretty good accomplishment. But it wasn't going to get the job done because we've all known what's happened, right? You knock down 40 houses, we're knocking them down in 40 different neighborhoods. You got 4 abandoned houses on a block and you take down 1 house, nobody knows the difference. And so I went back to my friends at the Detroit Medical Center, the same folks who built the new heart hospital, built the new Sinai Grace emergency room, built the new children's building. Have you seen those buildings? Okay, aren't they great? Okay, so the man who built all those buildings is Dave Minardo. Dave, stand up. All right. So Dave came to me, and he said, can I take a big pay cut and work longer hours to come work for the city of Detroit? And I said, well, if you have to, come on over. And so now we have the finest construction team I've ever worked with in my life, and here's what's happening. We got $50 million. Here's an area where President Obama and Governor Snyder worked together to get us this $50 million. The head of the State Housing Authority, Scott Woosley, has been fantastic. But last year, they knocked down 50 houses a week. Great accomplishment. In June, Dave was knocking down 90 a week. Okay, getting there. In July, he's promised us we will be getting down 200 a week. And then by September, we're going to be getting down 300 a week. We are going to start to roll through this city in a way that nobody's seen. But here's the difference. We're only knocking down the houses that can't be saved. And if we go through and knock down the houses that can't be saved, as I'm going to show you, we can sell an awful lot of the others. And so I'm talking about it today, but from here on out, you're going to hear me talk very little about demolition. I'm going to be spending my time talking about the houses that we've saved. So if you see this sign on the house, it means our team is coming. Everything's centralized under Dave Minardo and the Building Authority. If we post this sign on a house and you think somebody still lives there, please call us. Okay, we do this 72 hours ahead of time. Can't tell you it's impossible to make a mistake, so we post them ahead of time. Here was our problem. The feds and the state gave us $50 million, but they said you could only spend it in these areas. And if you look at how limited that is, if you were in District 7, Commissioner Leland would point out to me, like, there is no demolition in his district at all. If you're in District 3, the same thing, right? And so Dan Gilbert and the Blight Task Force came out with a great plan and gave us a lot of data. And with the great work that they did, we went back to the feds, and in June, they more than doubled our area. Okay? So everything in the green now, you can see the light green is what's just been added. I'd like to get to the whole city, and eventually we will. But we're now able to demolish in twice as big an area as we could just a month ago. If you are outside the green areas, we are trying to help too. There are 3 things we can do. If your house is burned, there is a good chance we can use the fire escrow funds no matter where you are to knock down the burned house. We've got some emergency demolition funds where we've got a dangerous situation. We got one now where one house is in danger of falling on another. We'll get to that, even if it's outside that. And I've already started talking about the feds to get more money in here and expand that zone. We want to get to the entire city, but we're making progress. I'm trying to be honest with you about what we can do and what we can't do. And again, you're going to see this on TV every night, and if you live outside this, the zones, you're experiencing it. But here's the thing. We're rolling through much of the city, knocking down now 90 houses a week. The story on the TV news won't be the ones we're knocking down, right? It'll always be the ones we haven't gotten to. And that's just the way it's going to be. But we're going to keep going until eventually we made enough progress, they find another city to go talk about. All right. Abandoned houses. Okay? This is what I spend time on all day long. We all know the story. People walk away from their houses. Treasurer can't take the abandoned house for 3 years for back taxes. And so we've started something else. We've started suing the owners of the abandoned houses and giving them 2 choices. Sign a court order to get it fixed up and occupied in 6 months, or deed it to us, and we'll sell it on the internet like eBay. When I was talking about this in the campaign trail, people said I was nuts. Who's going to buy an abandoned house in the city of Detroit, right? We're wasting our time. There's no value there. Except we're doing something different. We're filing suit on every abandoned house in a neighborhood at the same time. And when people know that the rest of the houses are going to be dealt with, they're a lot more willing to invest in their own houses. And so you've seen what we've done. We go through a whole neighborhood and we post this on the doors. And we started in Marygrove, and now at this point we filed 229 lawsuits against owners of abandoned houses. We're filing 50 a week. We had a good week last week. 120 people have now signed a court order to fix up their house. When they saw us coming down the block, they thought, geez, maybe I don't need to walk away from this house. Maybe I can fix it up myself and sell it. This is what we want. I don't want to take the house. I want the neighbors to fix them up. So between May and July, the team at the land bank is filing lawsuits in all these neighborhoods. And we're going one at a time. We consulted with the city council members on the process, and we're working our way through them. I think we're down to Mohican Regent right now, and then we'll get down to Springwells Village and Warrendale. And then we're going to go back to the next round, August to October. And we are just going to roll through the neighborhoods across this city, one after another, filing the suits so that you know as a community group we're taking the whole block at once. So, how are we doing? Yeah, I'm glad. I'm so glad you're here. I'm going to take you with me everywhere. All right, so here's Marygrove. Okay, just south of Marygrove College, east of Wyoming, 101 abandoned houses. If you haven't seen the neighborhood for many years, these houses, beautiful stone, brick houses. But after the foreclosure crisis in 2008, they started to slip. I never thought I'd see the day there'd be 101 vacant houses. That was last month. That's the way Marygrove looked the first week of May. And then we went and posted all 101 houses and started to sue them. And 35 owners signed agreements to fix up the property. So we show those up there in blue. People are working on 35 of the houses. I don't have to spend $1 on any one of them. They're taking care of them themselves. And as of today, in our lawsuits, we've taken ownership of 40. So you see the blue? In less than 2 months, 75 of the 100 houses in that neighborhood either have a signed consent agreement where the owner's fixing it up or the land bank has title to it. Okay? Doesn't mean we've solved the problem. We got 8 or 10 of them we're going to have to demolish. We're going to have to go through and sell the other ones on the land bank, but you can see what's going to happen. When you come down this block by December, it is going to look very different. This is the heart of this strategy. Take the whole neighborhood at once. And in 60 days, I'm going to be here, and all that orange is going to be gone. In one way or another, we will have addressed every property in that area. And that's what we're repeating in East English Village, at Hubbard Farms, in Bagley, and right across the city. So, what's it really look like? My staff and I drove the neighborhood Memorial Day weekend with an iPhone. And we just drove up and down to see what's going on. How these people really fixing up their houses, right? They signed consent agreements. And so I was really glad to see somebody at Ohio was there fixing up their house. And then I got over to Roselawn. The guy was fixing up his house. And then I got over to Cherry Lawn. You can see the scaffolding. They're fixing up the house. All right? And then the guy across the street on Cherry Lawn is fixing up the house. And then this guy in Wisconsin is fixing up the house. And then across the street, this whole cheerful group is rehabbing the house. And so people, if I drive this neighborhood, and I drive it probably twice a week, people just yell at me from the porch, or Mike, and they make me stop, which I'm always glad to do. But the story the one told me was pretty funny. The woman said, in May, she looked out a window, and there was a guy up on a ladder who was working on a gutter. And she called 911. 911 came out. They got the guy off the ladder. And I'm a contractor. I'm working for the homeowner. And the lady who called says, I'm sorry, but it's been so long since this neighborhood. I thought you had to be a scrapper. Okay? Now there's no question what's happening. Okay? If you drive down these streets today, we got a long way to go. Okay? It's better, but it's nowhere near where it's going to be. But we're going to auction these houses in July. We'll have people moved into them by fall, and by December, it's going to be a different neighborhood. And then how many of the people have been on the buildingdetroit.org website? All right? This is great, right? People all over the world are looking at this. These are the houses everybody said nobody would buy, right? Abandoned houses in Detroit. And so you've seen the website. We started in May. We've sold 70 houses already, vacant houses, vacant for 4 to 5 years. Look at this. $1 million for houses in Detroit that have been empty for 4 to 5 years. When people say there is not value in these homes, they are wrong. And we're proving it every single day. And so we expanded the auction. In May, we sold 5 a week, 1 a day, Monday through Friday. Rick Weiner and the team is here from the land bank. We worked out the bugs. We went up to 2 a day, 7 days a week. Now we're selling 14. Rick says this is getting easy. And so in August, we're going to 3 a day. Okay? If we sell 3 houses a day all year, it'll be 1,000 houses a year that we will be putting back in that were sitting there empty. And if you start to take another couple thousand a year where people rehab them, and now you're starting to talk about 3,000 houses a year that weren't occupied. You got 3 or 4 people living in the houses. You start talking about 10,000 people a year back in the city of Detroit. You see where we're going with this. And then, after the demolition, what about the vacant lots? We're going to start selling side lots. We're going to sell the lots to the neighbor next door. Is it about time? Okay. So, we're going to start this in July. If you have a vacant lot, we will sell it to you. We will sell you the lot next door if you're current on your taxes. Most of these lots we got because people defaulted. So if you're already behind your taxes, we're not giving you the property just to take it all over again, right? You got to be current on your taxes. If there's 2 neighbors, 1 on each side, it's going to be first come, first serve. Okay? Except if the 2 neighbors are on each side, if one of them's been cutting the grass for years, we're going to give them preference. They ought to get the preference if they've been maintaining it, right? So, in July, this is the website we're going to put up. It's going to be connected to buildingdetroit.org. It says purchase a side lot. You'll be able to go on there and see if the side lot next to your house is offered in the program. We're going to do a couple hundred of these in July just to work out the bugs. And then you're going to fill out your information. that says, here's where I live, here's my name, I'm current on my taxes, put $100 in the credit card. And within a week, you show up at the office, pick up the deed, you own the lot. Put a garden on it, put a swing set on it. We're going to move the lots from the government and put it in the hands of the neighbors. All right? This out. We're going to be looking for one city council district to try this out across the board. And the chairman of our committee, Gabe Leland, is already angling to be the first one here. There's value to being the committee chair. And so we'll make a decision on this. But here's what we're thinking, is that we want to go to one council district and say, send all the vacant lots to the land bank and let's prove this will work. Whichever council member wants to go first. We own 4,200 vacant lots in District 7 today. About 1,500 of them are next to an occupied house. And so this is what the map of District 7 looks like. You see those little blue dots there? Those are vacant lots the city owns. And so you see in the lower left all those one-offs. Almost every one of those is next to somebody who's in that house. I want to put those lots in their hands. Now you can see there's going to be other areas where we're going to have to cluster those lots together and do redevelopment. But we do think there's going to be broad stretches in which we can move the lots directly into the hands of the owners. And then we're going to send you a postcard. It's going to look like this. You're going to get it in the mail. Okay? For $100, you can get the side lot. And you'll be able to go on that website. One last thing, and then I'm going to talk about what's on your mind. But Chief Craig and I are working on the next big initiative that we are going to roll out before the end of this month. It's time to seize the drug houses. Right. So here's what the chief and I are doing. Since January 1, the Detroit Police Department has successfully raided more than 400 drug houses. I'm a former prosecutor. It's something I understand well. They had a search warrant. They went out. They found drugs. They've got to return a warrant. We know what the addresses are. We are going to mail the owners of every single one of those abandoned houses, every single one of those drug houses. And in many cases, there's a landlord, because usually drug dealers don't sell out of a house they own. In many cases, the landlord probably doesn't even know it's been raided. He's going to know when he gets a certified letter. And we're going to tell him, the house has been raided for drugs. You're now on notice. We're not taking it this time. But if it's raided for drugs again, we're seizing the house. Okay? We're going to give them a chance to remove the drug dealers, and then we're going to sell it on the website. And we're going to move in families who want to be a part of the neighborhood. And so the chief and I, in the next week or two, will be rolling out this program formally, but this is going to be part of, I think, what you're going to see, something I think this city has suffered badly from. We have not had good enough coordination between the police department and the rest of city government because the emergency manager has not seen fit to have the mayor supervise the police department. But we are moving in the direction now of much closer cooperation. We've got an excellent police chief, and I think you're going to see, when you have the mayor and the police chief working together, even better results. So that's what I've been doing for the last 6 months. And with that, I want to talk about what's on your mind. Who has questions? Yes, sir. I can't imagine what you want to talk about, Russ. Somebody got Mr. Ballon a microphone here? Here, what are we doing here? Oh, all right, we got microphones. Russ,
Microphones here and
up in the
on the other side.
If you have questions, please feel free to come up and line up at the mics.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I've been doing my own version of this in my neighborhood. I've got 7 houses. 3 of them I've rehabbed and got occupied. A 4th one's about to go on sale, and 3 more yet to do. And I'm using this all from my city retiree pension fund money.
All right.
100%, okay? But here's thank you. But here's the challenge. The governor's taken both of our K-8 schools in our area. And we are about to lose the Lipke Recreation Center tomorrow, with City Council planning to put this on the transfer to Public Planning and Development so that it can be sold to the Salvation Army. Our community spent 7 years organizing a campaign to get it built. It was built 10 years ago. We know the discussion about the physical problems with it, but our community has a very heartfelt need. We have the highest concentration of children in all of Michigan in our neighborhoods. We need that community center, and we don't want to see it turned over to a private entity that we can't have access to. Our block clubs were planning to do recreation programming in our neighborhood. We lost our rec center, and kids have to go for miles to go to a community rec center. It's a longer story, but you get the gist. And we were counting on this administration and this council to listen to us and to sit down with us and partner with us and not just run this through and get it done. It hasn't even been taken out of the master plan yet, and it's about to be transferred to be sold. Please help us.
So
Please help
I'm going to
us.
let council members address this if they'd like, but after you raised this issue with me a month or so ago, I went out, I visited Lipke Center, I visited the park. Of course, the park is absolutely beautiful.
Yes.
But the fact is, the rec center is closed. We are being left with a plan of adjustment, which does not have any source of funds to operate that or expand any other recreation centers. And so here's my question. I'm open to ideas, but every day I drive down 75 past the Brewster Rec Center that was allowed to be stripped out and burned and hang there because you didn't have the resources to run it. Ultimately, the scrappers and the vandals got to it. And so the question that I have is this. The Salvation Army, and I've met with them, have got plans to come in and invest in the building, keep it open as a community center, not as much recreation as you would like, but I think we'll fill the building with a responsible organization. Or if we say no to the Salvation Army, are we going to be in a situation where we're standing here 3 or 4 years from now with a strip vacant building because nobody was honest enough to say we don't have the money to run the center? So if you have an idea, I'm open to it, but I have not been able to find one.
Okay, what we wanted was the opportunity to sit down as a community organization with your administration and see what we can work out together to keep this open as broadly and accessibly as possible. And we still make that request. If this action that's scheduled for tomorrow can be pulled from the table, and then we can sit down as a community group. There's a whole group here. I did the survey on Suzanne Street after Mr. Benson did, and 29 out of 29 people Karen Washington and I talked to signed a letter saying, please do not sell. So we want to see what we can do in partnership, Mr. Mayor. And, you know, we're not saying that you're going to, by agreeing to that, you're making a guarantee that we're going to get what we want. But we want to have the opportunity to make our case. Please.
And so I'm always willing to listen. I don't know why it has to be this late, but I want to ask the head of our Department of Neighborhoods, who's in charge of the rec center, Charlie Beckham, to talk about what you have explored and whether you think there is some opportunity there. Charlie?
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. And hey, Russ, and everybody sitting here, my Lipke friends here, Ms. Bosch and Russ, and they're saying save Lipke Park. We want those signs too. We want to save Lipke Park. We have talked to all. You all know that. The action that is happening at City Council is not a sale. This deal is not done yet. We are still open to input. We've had 2 meetings. As you know, this process started before this administration got here. It was on its way to council. We knew there hadn't been enough community input, so we did stop that process at that point and started over again to get more community input, which we've had with City Council. We're still having that. This process at City Council is just to have planning and development declare that land surplus so that it can be sold to either the Salvation Army or something that Russ or you all put together, Ms. Bosch. So we're moving along through that process. But as the mayor says, we need at least as good an offer that Salvation Army is putting there. We have a responsibility to the folks there in the Lipke neighborhood to make sure that we can maintain some form of recreation there. We think the Salvation Army can do that. If they can't, we still have time to analyze that deal and to not do it. The law department is meeting with their lawyers every day, and this process has been as open as I can imagine. We had a meeting at Farwell Rec Center, as you know. we've agreed to disagree. We don't necessarily agree, but we're still talking. And if, as the mayor says, there is a better deal to be had, let's put it on the table and talk about it. There's not a problem with that. Same thing for the council, I'm assuming.
Okay, so I think I'm judging from the reaction of council. So council will, or I mean, it's their judgment whether they're ready to move forward. The one thing I'm going to say is this: we need to face reality as it is, not as we wish it to be. And if somebody has got a practical solution to get recreation in that center, I'm going to be with you. But I am not going to go along with sentiment and turn down what I think is a fine organization in the Salvation Army, lose them as a developer of that center, and have that thing being sitting empty 3 or 4 years from now. We've all seen that happen in buildings. So I will sit with you. As Charlie said, it's one step in the process. I'll sit with you the next week. My guess is my colleagues here are going to be glad to sit with you as well, but it's got to be a concrete plan on what do we do with it. Is that fair? All right. Sounds like we have agreement, at least for now. Other questions? Yes.
Hi. Hello, Mayor. My name is Rodney Gazaway. I'm the Director of Community and Economic Development for Joyce Southfield in the Cody Rouge Community, District 7. First of all, to Gabe Leland and Marshall Bullock and John Sod, Planning Development, and Arthur Edge sitting over here. They're just warriors for us. They're great. So you have some real champions out here. My question is on the housing, and to see if there's anything we can do. I work with a group of developers or people that have bought houses in the city of Detroit in the past, 700 of them to be exact. And these are all foreign investors.
Yeah.
We have got, so they are willing to sell these houses back on 10-year AMs on land contracts. We've got people to buy them, except we can't get, through private investment, there's no way for us to get the leverage, the down payment assistance, because we're not a bank. How can we work? Is there any way that we can work with the city or through another organization, regulated, so that we can put these houses back into Detroiters' hands? We have $30 million worth of investment capital, but we have no way to use it if we can't work with people on this down payment assistance.
When you say $30 million of investment capital, what are you talking about?
I'm talking about private investors that are willing to put up $30 million in capital to work in the city of Detroit, redoing houses across the city, meaning they would take these houses that they own or others through the land bank, fix them up, sell them on a fair land contract, working
Sure.
out at 7.5% or something, so they do make some money, back to residents on a 10-year AM, so their ownership is back at 10 years. But it's almost impossible because they have to have some money down to be able to hope for private investors. The problem is how do I go about getting the down payment assistance? And this has been because right now the only people they'll give down payment assistance to are the banks, and the banks are the ones that won't lend in the first place. So therefore, how can we go about this? And I know this isn't something you can answer right now, but it is a question that needs to be raised up.
Yeah, well, the one thing I know is the city's not a bank either.
I understand that.
So I don't know, Trish, if you have anything offhand, or if not, you want to talk? Okay, so Tricia Stein, the planning director, is here.
Excellent.
And she can tell you what options are out there. Off the top of my head, I'd be interested in sitting down and look at this and see if they can do a land contract that didn't require a significant down payment. It would seem to me that would be
We need to do that, or the down payment assistance dollars that are not being allowed to be used in the city because the banks have to be the ones that do the lending.
And are these properties vacant today?
Yes.
And so I just give you, and I don't start out with a heavy-handed approach, but we were just in court on Friday in a house in Marygrove, and this is the kind of story you hear over and over. How is this house vacant? In 2011, it was sold at a tax auction for $2,000. Person never moved in, didn't put a dollar into it. A year later, they sold it to somebody in Macomb County for $5,000. Still haven't put any money into it. The guy in Macomb County last year somehow sold it to an investor in Japan for $5,000. So the house on North Lawn in Marygrove is owned by a fellow in Japan. We sued him. And so Friday, his lawyer showed up. Said, "Why are you suing us?" And we said, "Because your house is vacant. It's a nuisance to your neighbors." He said, I never bought a house in Detroit at $5,000 if I thought I could get sued for it being vacant. So the judge told him, you have two choices. You either sign the court order to get it fixed up and occupied, or the city's going to take the property. And there are many people in this town who overextended themselves in the number of houses they bought. I'm willing to be reasonable with them, but they're going to have to move pretty quickly. And so Tricia's here. Is Kevin Samowski here tonight? Rick Weiner's here from the Land Bank. And between the two of them, why don't you talk to the two of them? We'll see if we have any creative ideas. But these guys need to know we either need to work something out or they're going to get sued pretty soon on 700 houses.
Yeah, they're willing to work.
Okay,
So,
good.
All right,
Thank you. Great issue.
Mr. Mayor, my name's Pat Driscoll. I'm with Detroit Eviction Defense and a longtime resident of Detroit and a retired steelworker. As you've made clear, the route to helping the city to prevent blight, is to keep people in their homes. And that's what I think needs to really, why we need to look at the larger picture. You're doing some good work, but even in Marygrove, when you look at the statistics on why don't we own this, for instance, you'll see there's literally hundreds of homes in that same, 179 in that 6 or so block area that are in fact going into foreclosure for taxes just coming this September.
Right.
That across the city, as a recent New York Times article discusses, we have probably 26,000 residential, 43,000 properties that are going into foreclosure. We need to keep people in their homes in any way we can, and one of the ways is eliminating the bureaucracy, communication between the county and the city. You've been working with them. The whole issue of step forward. Half of the people aren't eligible for step forward funds. We need to find ways to keep people in their homes, and that may take addressing something that's been done before, which is basically not auctioning off owner-occupied homes until you can find some means to keep people in those homes. Part of the reason of this is we need to address the equity of the situation. We know people are desperately poor since 2008. Even before that, we have a huge poverty. There are many older people that are on a fixed income that are only receiving so much. You yourself has talked about how the property tax system for everybody is basically broke. And this is part of the expanding. So we had something like 52,000 properties over the last 3 years. Another 26,000 residential ones may come up this year. Now this is going to overwhelm your numbers unless we address these things concretely. Because it's an illusion on the emergency manager's part or our part to think that we're going to squeeze blood from a turnip. People are poor; they can only have so much. You're either going to drive them off and sell it off to these investors. In fact, we have a case over in the Lower East Side. 13 families promised that they were going to have a home. They were going to have a home. Peter Barclay promised to work with HUD, et cetera. He backed out. Now he's trying to throw them out of their home, and he just had them on a website with Midas Corporation to sell them to Singapore. Sell these 13 homes to Singapore. Now we marched and picketed in front of Midas, and they backed off because they were kind of being lied to themselves. But the point is, how can we address? We've got to address this issue along with many other issues. We've been working with Fannie Mae with individual cases, for instance, to allow people to get their homes back at market value in those cases. But anyway, a person's going to lose their home, we got to address how to keep them in their home.
I agree with everything you said. We got to figure out what's the solution. And so there's a few things. One is, I think Ray Wojtowicz, the Wayne County Treasurer, has done a fine job. This Step Forward program, where they're using the federal money for people of low income to pay off back property taxes, has kept a whole lot of people in their homes. The other thing is the treasurer has negotiated payment plans wherever he can. The problem is state law says when the treasurer extends a payment plan, he has to charge 18% interest. Ray Wojtowicz and I are trying to get that law changed in Lansing so you could lower it to 6%, so it actually helps people to stretch these out. And of course, what the council and I did back in February, we cut the property tax rates in this city by an average of 20%, trying to make it more affordable. So we're chipping away at it every step of the way. The treasurer cannot legally choose not to foreclose because somebody lives there. He'd be breaking the law. So you can say that, but he doesn't have the power to do that. But could we raise the property values by the things we're doing here? Can we cut our assessments as we did? Can we promote the Step Forward program? Can we stretch out payments? If we do all those things together, can we have an effect? And when all else fails, once in a while your pickets work. So I think we all work together. We'll just keep chipping away at it. But you're doing great work. I hope you keep it up. Yes.
Good evening. My name is William Davis. I'm a retired City of Detroit retiree, property owner. Obviously, I already have voted against the plan of adjustment. But my question to you is, and to the City Council, during the last election, I have a 20 and a 21-year-old sons. My youngest son asked me to vote for you because he said you said you was going to do something about the insurance.
Right.
Because I pay very high auto insurance. I pay very high homeowners insurance. And I told my youngest son, I don't trust him. He's too close to the governor. I'm still waiting to see if you're going to do something about the insurance. You know, homeowners insurance, auto insurance is very high. I personally think if the insurance rate was lower, instantly the city of Detroit would have another 25,000 people that's using suburban addresses that actually live in the city.
There's no doubt about it.
So,
and so what you're saying is right. I am on this insurance thing. We got a whole team of people dealing with it. The city charter says that the city of Detroit can start its own insurance company, but first the council and the mayor have to do an exhaustive actuarial analysis to prove that it's legitimate. I spent hours with the head of AAA. And AAA, interestingly enough, is sharing all their data with us so that we can actually do the analysis that we need to do. So I'm going to tell you, we're still 6 months away from solving it, but I run into people every day who are living in the city of Detroit and using a suburban address because of car insurance. And what that means is we're also not collecting the income tax. We're delivering services to them, but we're not collecting the taxes. So we got a lot more work to do on this one, but I'm not giving up on it until we get there.
So are you saying that in 6 months we should see something?
I'm saying in 6 months we will have a plan.
I'll be back to see.
All right.
Good evening.
Yes.
Bulk pickup. I want to know how are you going to be able to enforce people putting out bulk pickup early? If they pick it up on Thursday, by Saturday it's out, so it has to sit there for 2 weeks.
All right, Ron? Okay, this is Ron Brundage, the DPW director, who has an answer for that.
Oh, thank you. That's even better. All right, go ahead. How are you, Ms. Carter? The mayor indicated. we just met a second ago. No, I'm kidding. I've known Ms. Carter for several years. The mayor indicated that DPW has maintained 35 employees to focus on cleaning up illegal dump sites. But we've also maintained all of our environmental inspectors that are going to be providing enforcement activities. So what we wanted to do is initially we wanted to make sure that all of our residents fully understood when their biweekly bulk collection days were. So for the first month or so of the contractor's beginning service, we just wanted to focus on educating our citizens. Now we've gotten to a point where we feel that everybody should understand what their collection days are. So now we're going to be a little bit more aggressive in terms of reaching out to individuals that put their bulk out on the wrong day. Doesn't mean that we're just going to go out and start issuing tickets, but we will first issue warning notices to them, giving them a couple days to remove their blight, and if they don't, then we'll come back and issue citations.
All right. Good. All right, I learned why we do this. Yes, sir.
Hi, my name is One I Am. I'm a Detroit resident, and I was a little late getting here. You might have covered it already. But I was wondering what your position is on the water shutoffs, and also the city council, what their position is on the water shutoffs and how you plan to address the United Nations position that it's inhumane to shut off people who can't afford water.
Yeah, I think it was talked about in the opening. The Department of Water and Sewer is under the emergency manager, and we are here talking about the things that we can have some effect on. I don't know if anybody here from the water department can answer it, but basically there is a new fund that has just been created with thaw. Is somebody here? Daryl's here. All right, well, I'll turn it over to the expert. Daryl, go ahead.
Good evening. We have a fund that's set up, which is a continuation of our Detroit Residential Water Assistance Program that will start this coming Monday. Thaw will administer it, and we're going to, actually I have some flyers here with information and phone numbers that will tell our customers who to call, and we also assist our customers. Keep in mind, most of the customers that we come right back in office and pay in full. We hear this large cry out that we're cutting off poor people. Have them come to the office. We will take care of them. I have not seen these people, these thousands of people that people are claiming that we're cutting off. Have them come to the office. We're working out plans with all of our customers, but it'll be irresponsible for us not to collect the revenue that is owed to the department.
Oh, okay, you're getting the big accounts as well?
We are getting everyone. All of the accounts, that's a myth that's out there that a lot of the commercial accounts are not being paid. I don't know where they're getting that information from.
Okay. And I would say one other thing, and I think, I think we probably would all agree this could have been handled more sensitively. I think the fund should have been set up before the notices went out, that some things should have been done differently and will be done differently in the future. But one thing every Detroiter should know is this: when one person in the city does not pay the water bill, that bill is spread to Detroiters, not spread to anybody else. It's not spread to the suburbs, not spread to the state. So council just approved an 8% water rate hike. Most of that rate hike was to pay for people who weren't paying for their own bills. And so if you genuinely cannot pay, we've got a fund, the thaw fund, that will be there. But the idea that somehow we should have a group of people not pay, I just want you to know, it's falling on the rest of Detroiters. All of your bills are going up. Right now, every Detroiter pays 50 cents a month that goes into the fund that's funding thaw. So everybody's contributing for those who truly can't pay in that way. And when people have called my office, and I've had surprisingly few given the amount of protest I've heard, we sent them to the water department. The water department has worked out a payment plan. So at least I think it could have been handled better, but I think they're doing a better job of dealing with it now. Other questions? Yes,
hello, Mr. Mayor. My name is Wallace Gilbert. I'm a minister at Church of the Messiah. I want to first say that I think you're doing a great job. I want to make that known.
All right. Glad you're still happy with me.
I'm a 50s baby. I was born and reared here in the city of Detroit. I've been here through the good, the bad, and I must admit I left a few years during the ugly, but I'm back.
All right.
Anyway, my question is about the buses. I'm going by the numbers that you gave. One of the things we do at Messiah, our main focus is young people, and we help them to get jobs. And I personally ride the bus before I get them a particular position on a certain side of town, so if they come back and tell me they couldn't get there, I'll know whether or not they're telling me the truth.
Right.
You use a number of 225 buses. Well, we've done the math, and they say it takes about 270 buses to adequately handle 100,000 riders. I understand that the city of Detroit probably has a third of the residents that don't drive. So doing the math, we came up with a number of more like 270 buses. So I want to understand why you gave the number of 225 buses, number one.
Number one, I spent 4 years running the smart bus system. If there's one aspect of city government I understand, it's buses. Okay. Where the 225 number comes from is if you look at our published schedule, how many buses would it take on the road in the peak period in the afternoon, which is when our peak period is, to make every stop on the schedule and the timeline, and that number is right around 225. And I'm sure, I don't know if Dan Dirks is here, Dan's here, but if you'd like to sit down with him afterwards, our general manager, he'll take you through the calculations. But you can actually take the schedule and match it up to the number of buses. That's where the number comes from.
Okay, but he said peak time. Number two, you said you were putting cameras on the buses.
Right.
Half of the buses I ride, the fare boxes don't work.
Right.
So if you're trying to generate revenue.
Right. Absolutely. And so, again, Dan can talk about this, but this is the stuff that drives you nuts. there has been no commitment on the part of DDOT to fix fare boxes. And when I sit with the drivers and say, what's the biggest problem? They tell me the fare box is broken. What do? I just wave people on. Some people get used to the fare boxes not working. They don't pay even when it's working. There is a company out of what city? Chicago, that has a monopoly on fare boxes. We could not get them to supply us with spare parts. I think it has something to do with us not paying our bills in recent years. But in the last 60 days, we have gotten them paid. We've gotten their assurance. And Dan, how are we doing on the spare parts of the fare boxes?
We're starting to get the parts in, so they're starting to be maintained. But you know, the problem is we were cannibalizing old fare boxes to get along the way. But you're absolutely right. Probably in the next 90 days, there's going to be a lot more fare boxes working a lot better. Let me just say one thing, though, about fare boxes. I visited my daughter in Washington, D.C., rode the bus a lot. I rode 5 trips on the bus. 4 of the buses had fare boxes that don't work.
Okay, well, we're not using that as our standard.
No, but the point is, it's a tough piece of equipment. We've trained the folks working on the fare boxes. It's going to get a lot better.
Okay, but you're right, and we're going to fix it. All right, yes. Commissioner.
Mr. Mayor, I'm in District 1 on the west side, right down the block from where the Myers is going to be opening up next year. I saw you at the groundbreaking today. By the way, your 2 district representatives, Reggie Reg and Stephanie Young, are doing a great job in my area, so I just wanted to thank them for that.
All right. I thought you were going to plug a councilman there.
What's that?
I thought you were going to plug a particular councilman.
Well, I'm not in this district, so
okay, all right.
I'm taking care of my district. You know, that's his problem.
All right.
But, Mr. Mayor, I want to just tell you that I have seen more positive things in my area in District 1 than I have seen in the last 25 years. The garbage, I'm smiling, the garbage is being picked up, the lights are on, we have houses that are being torn down. In fact, I reported something recently on Bentler Street, and there's a tag in that building that's going to be torn down. The police are giving tickets in my neighborhood. I mean, no one likes tickets, but I've never seen a Detroit police officer in my area give a ticket. He's parked on a medium on McNichols around Evergreen, and he is like giving out. He's doing enforcement, and I thought that was a good thing. Everything is going well, and I'm just really happy that it is, and you're doing a great job, and I just wanted to come here tonight and thank you.
First nice thing you've ever said to me, Bert. Thank you. All right. All right. I know this isn't going to last. Who's next? Yes. I'm sorry. Oh.
Just want to say, Dad, thanks for being here. You know, I wouldn't be here without your love and support. And then secondly, you know, although we do a great job vetting a lot of the proposals that the mayor sends this body, we wouldn't be here today and doing the great things that you're witnessing if it wasn't for the fantastic partnerships that the mayor talked about earlier. You know, this is a mayor that understands the role of the legislative process and legislative body. Now, that's not to say that we won't be vetting a lot more of the proposals that you send us, Mr. Mayor, but I'm looking forward, you know, to the partnership.
Yes.
Hello, my name is Lakeisha Harris, and I'm with Hill Detroit. We're having a peace rally August the 2nd, where the east side of Detroit is marching from 7 Mile to Van Dyke to 7 Mile of Woodward Palmer Park. The west side is marching from 7 Mile of Greenfield to 7 Mile of Woodward Palmer Park. And Highland Park is supposed to be joined in with this with us. We have Councilwoman Raquel from Southwest Detroit.
This isn't on, yes.
Yeah, you. Supposed to be.
Are you marching?
I'm marching.
Okay, she says she's marching.
Yeah, I know.
All right.
But the thing is, now what happened is Get Money Game, Maybach Music, Rick Ross, they were sponsoring this. And people have known this for a month. And now this incident has happened with the local rapper here and him, so it has divided things. So I need you all help to make this peace rally happen.
Okay. So who's got the best relationship with the rappers? Where's Adrian? Hey, Reggie, come on down. All right. Reggie, you got a solution here?
Yeah, Trick is a very good friend of mine. I think that make a call to Trick and we'll talk to him. He's like an ambassador for the whole thing. So how about we do that, a three-way call with Trick? Absolutely.
All right.
I'll take it upon myself to make sure we talk to Trick about that. He can help
All
us
right. All right. Okay. So there is one of our deputy district managers. I guess they can do a little of everything. All right. Yes. All right. And Council President Jones is also going to be engaged in that peace effort. Yes.
Hi, my name is Marianne McLaughlin, and I just had a couple questions. One about the Public Lighting Authority. What, if any, use are you going to be making of solar light? It alleviates the problem of whole stretches of street lights going out, and it alleviates the problem of wires being taken out of the bottom of street lights.
I can let Otis Jones give you the technical answer, but I'll give you the practical answer from my part. I went in and had a national survey done of what was happening across America because the lighting authority was in the process of putting the old sodium lights back in. What I found was every major city in America that's modernizing is going to LED lights. Nobody is going in a significant way to solar lighting because the technology is not quite there. And my own judgment was, did I really want Detroit to be the first city in the country to put solar lights across the city and then find out we'd gotten the wrong technology? So we made a judgment that America is moving to LED lights, and we're moving that way. And I could let Otis Jones answer maybe in more technical detail.
The technical detail is there's a large question regarding the winter and whether or not we have the adequate Sundays requirement for that technology to work. There hasn't been a city, as the mayor mentioned, to take on that product because of the huge risks that's involved when you've got such a mass development happening. And the technical parts of that is just with the scientists and with the researchers who are involved in that will say is that they're unclear with the gray days we have, particularly in the winters, and we all know how this winter went, how that technology will hold up with the conditions that we have.
And my other question was, with regard to people trying to pay their taxes, could there be something done with regard to lowering the interest or penalties?
On the income taxes?
On the property taxes.
Yeah, on the property taxes, I think I mentioned that before. State law requires that it be 18%. Ray Vojtovich and I are both supporting a bill that's in Lansing now to allow the treasurer the option to lower that to 6%, and we will be lobbying for that this year.
What about the penalties?
Yeah, I think the whole thing. We want to give them the authority, and the treasurer could tell you the ins and outs better than I can, but he has been the one pushing this bill, and I've just recently joined him in that process.
Thank you.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. Hello, Mr. Mayor. My name is Renee Gunn, and this is very, very simple, but just for a teeny bit of background. I live in District 5. First, let me say this before I get to the complaint and the question. Erin Harris has really helped me. She responded to me in a very, very timely manner. Thank you so much. And I appreciate that. And but we kind of hit a brick wall. Also, I went up to the Joseph Walker Williams Center to try and implement some programs and try to get some help as well. The problem is I live on Blaine between Woodrow Wilson and Byron, right behind Herman Kiefer. There's a very, very large piece of property that belongs to the Detroit Board of Education, and it is 3.5, 4 feet tall. It's not that I just don't want to live in squalor. I'm that little old lady that's out there doing the cracks and picking up pizza boxes and weaves and condoms. That is me. I do this, and I do this no matter who does anything else. So I'm saying that to say we can't handle the playground. We want to play softball. We just want to get it cut. Aaron has tried to help me. I don't know who to go to because it seems the problem is that the Board of Education is in charge of cutting it, not the city of Detroit. And so it's almost like it's some mysterious entity that nobody can get in touch with. And we just want to play softball on the 4th of July to bring our community together and fix our fields. I played there. I played in high school. I was a graduate of Northern High School. I was a city runner-up catcher. And so I'm just saying that I had a wonderful childhood on playing between Woodrow Wilson and Byron, and I believe that others should have that as well. And I know I'm not romanticizing it, and the glory days aren't going to come back, because I believe what you said about being in the moment. We're going out there with lawnmowers and sickles and weed whackers and trying, but we need help.
You know, you've probably seen my style. My style is not to criticize other people but find solutions, but I am beyond exasperated. The Detroit Public Schools are the single biggest creator of blight in this city right now. And I don't, to be honest with you, I don't know the answer yet. We could sue them, not just to cut overgrown fields, but to deal with these stripped out and burned out buildings. We could win the lawsuits, but it would take money away from the children in the classroom. And so I haven't figured out a solution yet, but I'm not going to give up until I solve it. In the meantime, I don't see Gary. Is Gary Brown here? Okay, Gary is the good guy I send over. But Charlie, maybe you can take this on and see if somebody within the DPS bureaucracy can get a lawnmower out there and see if we can cut this. But I can't make you any promises. I'm as frustrated as you are.
We're going out. We're doing it, you know, with lawnmowers. So I'm not just sitting here waiting for other people to do it. So we're there, and we're trying to take care of our community. I just want that to be known.
Yes.
Any help would be appreciated.
Yeah, you're doing a great thing.
And I just wanted to add, ma'am, that there's a lot of additional issues in relation to Detroit Public Schools. I just attended the public hearing last week in relation to their budget being balanced and increasing class sizes to 43 students per classroom, which is ridiculous. So I think the city needs to, we will be thinking strategically about how we work with the state to bring control of the Department of Education back within the city, and looking at what we can do as council to appoint a liaison to work with the DPS school board.
Who's next? Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Amelia Monroe, and I'm the block president on Virginia Park Street.
Good.
And my question is the chop shops. I
Yes.
know that you have no
Yes.
control over with the police, but
Yep.
you were saying with the drug houses, you could seize
Right.
those houses.
Right.
Can you seize the chop houses? Because the neighbors are moving out because they can't keep a vehicle.
Did you go to law school? Okay, so you're on a subject that's near and dear to my heart. When I was the prosecutor, the police chief at the time, Benny Napoleon, who I used to get along with really well, he was obsessive about busting the chop shops. He was really good when he was a police chief. And he'd bust them over and over, and they'd reopen. And so we did the same thing. When you use property for illegal activity, the prosecutor, in this case it's the prosecutor, can forfeit the property. And so the chief and I have been talking about this, and I'm going to see Kim Worthy in the next week. But when I was the prosecutor, we were actually seizing the chop shops. And when the chop shop owners figured out what we were doing, they put up high fences so we couldn't see the cars in the backyard to get probable cause. When they put up high fences, we rented a helicopter and went from above and took pictures of the chop shops and continued to seize them. So the answer is yes, we can do it. And one of the things I think I'm going to bring a value to Chief Craig as we transition back over is that I'm going to be able, I believe, to bring the prosecutor, the feds, and the police department together, and we'll go get those. But in the meantime, if you give Vince Keenan The addresses, we'll see, or you've got an officer right here. We'll see if we can't get somebody out to bust those chop shops in the short run. But thank you. We'll get on it.
And I want to say thank you to Erin Harris, too. I have worn out her telephone, her email. She is working so hard. We are so thankful. She
All right.
has used every resource you have given her.
Okay.
Thank you,
All right.
Erin.
So Erin's got all her family here. I'm glad to hear it. The district managers are working out pretty well, aren't they? All right. Okay. Go ahead.
To the mayor, city council. My name is Alvin Stokes. I am the chairman of the Citizens Community Relations of the 10th Precinct. We're a unique precinct because we sit in 3 different districts. But I want to commend your staff, because this is the first time in a long time that we've had the City of Detroit staff, both city, the council and mayor, working together. And I like to applaud all of your staff, because they have been doing a great deal as far as communicating with the citizens and making things happen here in the city of Detroit. And I want to thank you personally.
All right. Well, good. Glad to hear folks are still happy with you.
The
All
other
right.
thing, you talked about tearing down houses in the city of Detroit. My issue is, after you tear them down, who's going to revise that neighborhood and make it livable rather than a bunch of vacant lots?
So again, I don't know if you heard the whole presentation, but most of the demolition we're doing now is in areas where the neighborhoods are reasonably strong. And so on the side lot program, one of the things I didn't talk about is this. Before the end of July, when the demo crew comes out and knocks down a house, I showed you before, we put up that yellow poster. We're also going to hang a door hanger on the 2 houses on both sides. And we're going to say, this house is going to be demoed in the next 72 hours. If you want the vacant lot, log on to this site and get the property. My ideal would be, we come in, we knock down the house, we clean the debris, and we deed it over to the neighbor immediately. So in cases where there's a neighbor, I want us moving it from demo to transferring it right away. We got other areas where there are huge stretches of vacant land. And we're going to have to figure out how to repurpose those, whether it's for redevelopment. The other thing is, when I get responsibility for the water department, we've got hundreds of millions of dollars of responsibility to build new sewer pipes. What you can do, if you're creative, is use that stretch of green land for retention basins and the like, and we could save the ratepayers in the city an awful lot of money using our open green space to retain the water instead of building a whole bunch more pipes. And so those are the kinds of things we're going to be working on together to repurpose that land. Okay. Yes, sir. I thought you were volunteering to get the chop shop.
I do want to let the community know that the Detroit Police Department does have a tip line, both phone and email address, for reports of illegal scrapping, dumping, and graffiti. In addition to that, also illegal electricity hookups. So these cards are available on your way out, but I'll read these numbers for you in case we run out of cards. The phone number is 313-235-4359. Again, that's 313-235-4359. And the email address is scrap, S-C-R-A-P, graph, G-R-A-F, dump, D-U-M-P, at detroitmi.gov.
Okay. All right, and John, let's make it a point at the future sessions to actually have those numbers printed on the contact information we pass out as people coming in. Thank you. Is it already on there? Okay. All right, so they're ahead of me. Go ahead. All right.
Hi, Mr. Mayor, council people. I'm part of District 3, and in frustration with all the things that we've experienced over the years, we had formed a citizens movement called Restore Northeast Detroit. Karen Washington is right down there in front. She initiated the idea, and we collaborated. We actually expanded our district from Woodward to Kelly, 8 Mile to I-94. So it's just a little section extra from John R. to Woodward. But in that process, we've had community meetings, over 40, trying to look at our land use survey work, and we've come up with some creative solutions of what we can do to improve District 3. And so we're having all that mapped. We did that in collaboration with CDAD and other partners.
Great.
So we're going to work in tandem, we hope, with Detroit Future City, and some of these creative ideas, whether they be solar farms or wind farms or the retention ponds, is what we hope to do. But in a practical question, I just wanted to ask you about the streetlights. We've had people call us and say, help us, we don't know what to do. We petitioned years back so that there would be an extra streetlight in our section of our block because we've had so many abandoned homes and so much overgrowth. And we're finding out that now that the new LED lights are coming, those lights are going to be taken down and will not be replaced. Do you know the answer to that question?
Yeah, so the answer to the question is that about 85% of the city is happy with what we're doing with the streetlights, and about 15% is not. And here's the reason. It's something, I did a number of presentations before we did the first rollouts. But here's what we've done. We are going across this city, and we are putting a new light at each corner and a light right in the middle of the block. If it's a long block, we put 2 lights spaced out in the middle of the block. But we're lighting this entire city to the national standard on a grid. We've got some people in this city who, even though half the lights in the city are out, they're 3 houses from the end of the block, and their street light works. Okay? As far as they're concerned, we don't have a lighting problem. Okay? But we can't leave one block with a light 3 doors in and another light 3 doors in, etc. And so if you had a light on your block that's 3 houses from the end, we take it out and we put one in the middle. And so I've heard from a lot of people who have said to me, you took away the light in front of my house. Well, the vast majority of the city is better off, but there will be individual cases where people are unhappy, and one thing I'm sure of is they all will let me know.
Well, we want to thank you for your enthusiasm. It's great to see that spirit. And we also want to thank our 2 district managers, Mr. Bullock and Mr. Solomon. They've been doing a great job.
Good.
Thank
Glad
you.
to hear it. All right. Yes.
Hi, Mr. Mayor. First of all, I would like to say thank you for the help that we're receiving over in Boston Edison. It's really appreciated. As being the newly elected president over there, I have some concerns for my residents because I walk and talk to them every day. I have a senior citizen who is approximately 85, 90 years old, who actually needs some help with roof. I've contacted every
Needs help with?
Roofs. Her roof, she needs a new roof, but she's elderly and she lives on a fixed income. I know at one time there was some money out for roofs and gutters that would assist them with that. If I could get some information or get put into the correct direction of who I need to speak to about that.
So Tricia Stein, raise your hand. Okay, but I don't want to hold out false hope. There's a very limited amount of money, but she will tell you how to apply for it. We're also working on a plan to offer repair loans at 0% interest before this year, to offer that kind of help as well. But if you talk to Tricia on the way out, she'll tell you what options there are.
Okay. And number 2, we actually have historic lights over in our district.
Right.
And I understand that we're not eligible for the new light system that's coming out, but we have blocks and blocks of lights, and that's a concern since car theft has actually increased over there. So I wanted to know who we could speak to possibly see if we could get those grids fixed and get some of these lights back on.
So the answer is you're going to get the new LED lights. They're going to be based, I assume, on the underground cable. So Otis, why don't you talk about what we're doing on Boston Edison on the lights?
Well, I thought they said that we just got the lights that were put in like less than 10 years ago, and they're historic lights, and we weren't eligible.
Go ahead, Otis.
Ma'am, what we're doing over there is that the current light poles that are there, we're going to replace those light poles with similar light poles. We are going to bury things underground the way they are today, and we're going to switch out the old high-pressure sodium with LED light heads. That's what we intend to do.
And you have one of your residents is one of the 5 board members in the Lighting Authority. What's Nicole?
Nicole Spears.
Nicole Spears. So you have a representative on the Lighting Authority. So you're in one of those handful of neighborhoods that is wired from underground. So it's going to take us longer to get there because we got to dig it up. but you're going to get an historic pole with the new LED light. And I don't know if you know offhand where Boston Edison falls in the timeline.
Boston Edison will be done probably around the spring of next year.
Okay. So figure spring to summer of 15.
Feel free to call my office.
Okay.
I need your number. Thank you.
Okay.
All right. Yeah, Otis is easy to find. Any other questions? Yes, go ahead.
It's wonderful to be here. This is the first time I've seen you as the mayor.
Oh, well, good.
Um,
Hopefully it won't be the last time.
Well, what I want to say is I have several problems, but one of the problems is you're not over the police department. I understand that. But my partners and I are sponsoring a Stop the Violence picnic. We're going to do an in-house training teaching young people in the community how to own their own trucking firm and get their CDL license. But we need a lot behind Mr. Liquor Store, East 7 Mile and Klinger cleaned up, so that we can sponsor the picnic there. We've had several shootings and murders on
So
the
Ron Brund, is it Ron or is it is Brad? Between the two of you, Ron and Brad, if you both stand up, would you please get the lot cleaned up behind the liquor store? They got you.
Thank you.
Go ahead. All right.
Basically, that's it.
All right.
Thank you.
That was an easy one. Anybody else? All right. As always, we'll give our leader, the council president, the final word.
As always, he likes to put me on the spot like this. I just want to say good meeting to all of you all, and what it shows is that you care about your community, you care about what's happening in your community and in the city of Detroit. So I want to thank you for being here. Many of you stayed for the full hour and a half, so that really shows that you care, because it's a nice day out there, and it's a lot you could be doing today. So thank you for being here. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for everything that you are doing. And thank you to the full administration for the mayor. And thank you to my colleagues, all of my colleagues, and many of them are not here because they had other things already planned out in their districts. But I want to say that everything is going great in this city. I always say we hear national news about the city, and a lot of the national news you hear is not the greatest news. But it's up to us to stand up for our city and to speak up for our city. So let's do that. We have a great city. And anytime you see a billionaire coming into a city, buying over 20 buildings, what does that tell you? It tells you that you have a great city and that they are going to work to make the city even greater. So as we work together in this city, let's tell everybody, we are proud to be Detroiters. We will stand up for our city. The things that you hear on the news about our city, if it's not positive, it's not always correct. So they need to ask somebody. And they can ask you, and you will tell them that, yes, this is a great Detroit, one Detroit with the executive branch and the legislative branch all working together. We don't always agree, but we know how to go behind closed doors and disagree and come out and agree to disagree, and we're all happy, and so are you. So God bless you, God keep you, and God bless Detroit.